Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to keep making horror stories. Thank you very much. Let's start the story.
The Canterville estate stood grand and imposing, shrouded in mystery and legend. Once a glorious manor in the English countryside, it now bore the weight of centuries of history, much of it dark and unnerving. The Otis family, recent transplants from America, had moved into the estate, drawn by its Gothic charm and the promise of a fresh start far from the hustle and bustle of their previous lives. Mr. Hiram B. Otis, a pragmatic man of technology, scoffed at the idea of ghosts. His wife, Lucretia, shared his skepticism, though their teenage children, Virginia and twins Josh and Charlie, were less convinced. The youngest, 6-year-old Eddie, seemed to be the only one unaffected by the eerie atmosphere, his innocent eyes wide with wonder at their new home. It wasn't long before strange occurrences began to disrupt their peace. The first incident happened on a stormy night, the wind howling through the ancient corridors. As the family gathered in the living room, the lights flickered ominously before plunging the room into darkness. Eddie, ever curious, had wandered off to explore the manor with a flashlight. "Eddie," Lucretia called, worry edging her voice. "Come back here, honey. It's not safe to wander around in the dark." "But Mom, I saw a man in the hallway," Eddie replied, his voice trembling slightly. "Don't be silly," Hiram said, grabbing a lantern. "I'll go get him." As Hiram made his way down the long, narrow corridor, the air grew colder, and the oppressive silence weighed heavily on him. The flashlight beam sliced through the darkness, revealing the aged portraits of stern ancestors lining the walls. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the end of the hallway, flickering like an old, distorted video. Hiram's heart pounded in his chest as he approached, only to find Eddie standing there, staring at a man dressed in antiquated clothes. "Who are you?" Hiram demanded, stepping protectively in front of Eddie. The man smiled a ghostly smile, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "I am Sir Simon de Canterville," he intoned, his voice echoing eerily. "This is my home, and you are not welcome here." Hiram, ever the skeptic, reached out to touch the apparition, but his hand passed through empty air. "A hologram? Some kind of trick?" he muttered. Sir Simon's laughter reverberated through the corridor. "Believe what you will, but know this. The Canterville estate is cursed. Leave while you still can." Eddie clutched his father's leg, eyes wide with fear. "Daddy, let's go back." Hiram nodded, and together they returned to the living room, where they found the rest of the family huddled together, nervously discussing the power outage. "What happened?" Lucretia asked. "We saw a ghost," Eddie blurted out, his voice quivering. Hiram frowned. "It was some kind of projection, I'm sure of it, but it was convincing." Over the next few days, the hauntings grew more intense. Objects moved on their own, eerie wails echoed through the halls at night, and cold spots seemed to follow the family wherever they went. The twins, ever the pranksters, tried to capture the ghost on their phones, but the footage always turned out distorted and unusable. Virginia, a budding artist, began to draw Sir Simon, her sketches capturing his sorrowful eyes and tormented expression. One evening, as she worked in her room, she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she found Sir Simon standing there, watching her with a melancholy gaze. "Why do you haunt us?" she asked softly. "I am bound to this place," Sir Simon replied, his voice filled with sadness. "For centuries, I have sought forgiveness for my sins, but none have been able to release me from this torment." Virginia's heart ached for the ghost. "What did you do that was so terrible?" Sir Simon's form flickered, revealing glimpses of his past. "I killed my wife in a fit of rage, and her brothers starved me to death in retaliation. My soul cannot find peace." Virginia stood, her resolve strengthening. "There must be a way to help you. I will find it." As Virginia researched the history of the Canterville estate, she uncovered a hidden chapel beneath the manor, a place where Sir Simon's wife had been laid to rest. She also discovered an ancient ritual that could potentially free the ghost from his eternal torment. It required the forgiveness of a pure-hearted person and a recitation of a specific incantation in the chapel. That night, as the wind howled and the walls creaked with unseen forces, Virginia gathered her family and led them to the hidden chapel. The air was thick with anticipation and fear. Sir Simon appeared, his spectral form wavering as if he were struggling to maintain his presence. "Are you sure about this?" Hiram asked, his skepticism wavering in the face of the supernatural. "We have to try," Virginia insisted, her eyes locked on Sir Simon's. As she began the incantation, the room seemed to pulse with energy. Sir Simon's form solidified, his eyes brimming with hope and sorrow. Virginia's voice grew stronger, each word resonating with the power of forgiveness and compassion. "By the grace of the pure-hearted, let this soul find peace," she intoned, her voice echoing through the chapel. A brilliant light enveloped Sir Simon, and he let out a sigh of relief. "Thank you," he whispered, his form dissolving into the light. As the light faded, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, and a sense of tranquility settled over the Canterville estate. The hauntings ceased, and the family felt a newfound peace in their home. Sir Simon's presence was gone, but his memory lingered, a reminder of the power of forgiveness and the enduring strength of compassion. The Canterville estate, once a place of fear and sorrow, became a home filled with love and warmth, a testament to the Otis family's courage and kindness. And in the stillness of the night, if one listened closely, they might hear the faint echo of Sir Simon's voice, finally at peace after centuries of torment.